stand these colors. Hey wild things, it's Cypris. Welcome back to the wild. Happy Easter, happy spring equinox, Merry Eostre, whatever spring fertility, new life returning celebration that you are experiencing. Welcome to this video. Today we're talking about dyeing eggs, but not just buying those little tablets of chemicals and doing the same old thing over and over and over again. Oh no. We're dyeing eggs the natural way. These eggs are dyed naturally using vegetables and spices and other sorts of food items, and I'm going to show you how we did this. So if you want to find out how to get these amazing colors with things you may already have around the house, just keep watching. Okay, so one of the important things to decide is whether or not you want to have this mottled look that I've got going on here or evenly painted color. And the difference is whether or not you strain the liquid after you prepare the dye. I like this more random look, so I leave the leaves or the berries or whatever, I leave that in the fluid so that the shape of the plant material affects how the egg takes the dye. But of course you may want a smoother consistency with the dye. Taking the time to strain the prepared liquid through a cheesecloth would get you that effect. I don't bother with the step because I like when it does stuff like this. So, how did I get these colors? We're going to talk about 3 methods for dyeing the eggs because different materials adhere to the eggs better if they're prepared a different way. The first method we're going to talk about is the hot method. This is for red cabbage and red onions. To get this brilliant blue color, you're going to need red cabbage. Half a cabbage. Put in as many eggs as you want to dye. In a pot with enough water to cover. This works with the red onion skins as well. For red onion skins, about 6 onions worth of skins. With enough water to cover. And the eggs. Bring it to a boil. Boil the raw eggs with the dye agent. Reduce heat. And then let simmer for 15 minutes. Once the liquid has returned to room temperature, add vinegar. This helps the color adhere to the egg. You can remove the eggs after a couple of hours. I recommend to get a brighter color to remove the eggs, let them dry, and then resubmerge for 2 to 3 hours. Do this repeatedly until you get the desired saturation. This can take up to 2 days. So make sure you've got room in your refrigerator for a lot of vials. So the second method that we're talking about is tea. You can use black tea, you can use green tea. I only used black tea because I was running out of eggs. For this method, boil some water, or at least have water at the boiling point, but not quite boiling. And in a jar, have 3 tea bags, black or green. steep the tea as if you were making tea. And then when the tea has settled to room temperature, you can add the vinegar and the eggs and commence batches of dyeing. The third method is the cold method. This is called the cold method because the dye will be at room temperature or refrigerated as you're using it. For this method, you are going to have to prepare the dye. For each dyeing agent that you use, you're going to need enough water in the pot to cover the leaves or seeds or whatever you're using, but also make sure there's enough water that you're going to be able to submerge your eggs. Bring this water to a boil and then let simmer for 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes of simmering, it is at this point that you may want to strain the liquid through a cheesecloth to get all of the vegetative detritus out of it. I skip this step because I like the look, but if you want clean color application, you'll want to strain the liquid. Allow the dye liquid to cool to room temperature and then add vinegar. A good rule of thumb is about 1/8 cup of vinegar to 2 to 3 cups of water. I don't know the absolute particulars of exactly the water-vinegar ratio that is optimum. Now, at the point that the dye agent is at room temperature, you can then add the hard-boiled eggs. There's two ways to do this. You can leave it overnight and then pull the eggs out, or you can leave them for several hours at a time and dry them in between. I recommend the second method because the color will adhere overnight and it will continue to build, but because it doesn't have that drying time, it develops this skin that doesn't have a chance to solidify and attach and adhere to the egg. And when you go to pull that egg out, it's very, very easy to scratch that color right off. Even with your bare fingers, it's possible to completely smudge the effect. Some vegetation makes this more difficult than others, and I think some egg surfaces are treated differently at the store. Next time I do this, I'm going to clean my eggs because I noticed that one brand of egg took the color a lot more reliably than the other brand of egg. I am guessing there was something that needs to be wiped off of the egg. So I recommend going to the trouble of dunking the eggs for 3 hours at a time, pulling them out and letting them dry. You get less scuffing, and the scuffing that you do get gets covered by repeated layers. So this is a really effective method, and as I said, you're just going to have to make sure that you have room in your fridge for as many colors as you're dyeing. Alrighty, here's the breakdown of how to get these colors from what materials. First of all, you want to decide whether to use both white and brown eggs. Carrot tops do not color the brown eggs very well. But everything else that I've tried seems to do as well with the brown as the white. It just gives it a different color. So I like to use both white and brown because it gives me more of a color range. But that is, of course, entirely up to you and your preferences. So here's the rundown. Red cabbage makes brilliant turquoise or bright blue, depending on whether it's white or brown. I've had a lot better luck in previous years. I think I had a really messed up head of cabbage. This is the brown egg and did not color as brilliantly as I'm accustomed to. With natural dyes, you're gonna end up with a variety of shades in your dye lots. Red onion skins make a lovely deep brick color. It seems to me to be about the same whether they're brown or white eggs. Yellow onion skins, oddly enough, give a color that is fairly close to the red onion skins, but it's a lot oranger. It's not quite as deep. In this case, the white eggs are more orange while the brown eggs get more red. I really like using onion skins because the color gets so rich. Black tea makes a delightful ruddy brown color. Blueberries makes a really nice indigo. It's kind of almost purpley and it's really nice and dark. You can see the white eggs come out more of a blue and the brown eggs come out closer to purple. Turmeric. This is fabulously bright. I love it. You get an orangey yellow with the white eggs and more of a orange with the brown eggs. And if you don't want this mottled look, you want to make sure you don't have the turmeric still in the fluid because that is the actual spice sticking to the eggs is how that happened. Chili powder. Doesn't work real well. Maybe because my chili powder is old enough that it's just not fresh. I don't know how old my chili powder is, so it would be worth trying with fresh chili powder, but the chili powder is supposed to be kind of this orange color and it just turned out to be bleh. It's still a fun color if I put it with the full spectrum, but it is kind of muted and brown, kind of meh looking. Carrot greens made this really soft pastel green, and as I've mentioned, the brown eggs really, they're just too dark to take that really light dye and do much with it. Beets. Beets are fabulous for dyeing eggs. They have this lovely reddish color or reddish pink depending on the brown or the white eggs. However, word of caution with the beets. The beet juice dyes everything. 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 My countertops are stained with beet juice. My wooden and plastic big stirring spoons are dyed with beet juice. Everything is dyed with beet juice. Be careful with the beet juice. It is maddening if it gets splashed around. So if you're doing with this, kids, just throw the tarps down, put on the big gloves up to the elbows, and have fun, but just be careful with the beet juice. That's my public service announcement. Beet greens. I was just in the mood to experiment and I didn't want them to go to waste. I didn't know what to do with them. I used the greens as a potential dye, and what I came up with was this weird sort of greenish muddy brown. And so now I'm really curious to try beet greens without the red stalks, because I feel like there was like this combination of coloring from the stalk and the green, the leaf part. So I kind of want to redo this experiment with just the green part of the beet greens, and that would give me two different dyes out of the same plant. That is how I got this lovely rainbow of eggs. I didn't put chemicals on these things. It's all natural. Now, I'm going to be eating eggs for the foreseeable future. I guess I'm gonna have to find some egg recipes because that's a lot of eggs for one person. So there we have it. That's how I dye my eggs, and I'm always experimenting, I'm always changing it up, I'm always finding new dye agents and new recipes, but it's really fun and I really like that it's natural. Great activity to do with friends, with kids. So thanks for watching this video. I hope it was inspiring. I'd love to know if this helped you to have a really fun egg dyeing experience. Do you have any egg dyeing hacks? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to catch more of my videos, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell. You can keep track of my exploits in between videos on Facebook and Instagram. I will see you on the next video, and until then, remember, keep your egg dyeing natural and wild.